We might get started, everybody. So thank you very much for joining today and giving us the next hour of your time. Let's get the slides moving. And Gabrielle, if you could just let anyone in who joins in, that'd be great. Okay, so we've got an hour with you today, and what we want to cover is Microsoft's commitments to sustainability. So I've got Gabriella Henry from Microsoft who is going to cover that. I'm going to do a bit of talking about the Australian Sustainability Reporting Standards, what they mean for organisations, a little bit of theory. We'll try and keep it light, but also the role of Scope 3 and some demos on how you can meet these requirements and address this reporting with the Microsoft platform. And then we're going to hear from Genevieve Smith from BECA on their journey with Microsoft Sustainability Manager, Scope 3 and climate disclosure reporting. So just quickly, Gabrielle, if you could just introduce yourself, then followed by yourself, Genevieve.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriella Henry. I'm one of the AI business process specialists at Microsoft, meaning that I look after the entire Dynamics portfolio from CRM to ERP. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Genevieve Smith. I'm principal in our sustainability advisory team, so working with clients across the spectrum for both decarbonisation and climate reporting. And I also wear our corporate sustainability hat at BECA, so doing all of those things to ourselves as an organisation as well.
Thank you. And myself, James Eakins, I'm the CEO and one of the sustainability leads at Accelerate Tech, and we implement sustainability solutions for corporate and government organisations. All right. Over to you, Gabriella, and just let me know when you'd like to change the slides.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. Wanted to share about the journey that Microsoft has taken to become a more sustainable, environmentally friendly organization. I'll share some key findings from our 2025 Environmental Sustainability Report with you today. But before I do this, I wanted to mention that this year, the Sustainability Manager product reports under the Dynamics ERP product group. And this reflects a strategy decision to align sustainability reporting with financial disclosures, which are typically managed through the ERP system. So the rationale is that sustainability data such as Scope 3 emissions, water and waste are increasingly tied to financial accountability and regulatory compliance. So functions such as ESG value chains, ASRS, the Australian Sustainability Reporting Standards, are tightly coupled with traditional ERP workflows such as procurement, supply chain, and financial disclosures. And today, I wanted to take you a little bit about the Microsoft journey that we've taken over the years. So Microsoft is not new to the topic of sustainability. We started laying the groundwork for today's innovation and investment based on science and data in 2009. This is when we set our first carbon emission reduction goal. In 2020, we set very ambitious targets to become a carbon negative, water positive, zero waste company by 2030 and to address the biodiversity needs of the planet. And from 2030 to 2050, we'll continue not just zeroing out our annual emissions, but go back in time and remove from the atmosphere an equivalent amount of all the carbon the company has emitted either directly or via our own electricity consumption since we were founded in 1975. And we'll continue working closely with customers and partners as we have throughout our journey, translating our experiences into new solutions and tools that will advance our collective progress. And because we've discovered that for organizations of all kinds and in every industry, progress starts with reliable measuring of our impact. And this is enabled and accelerated by digital technology and powerful analytics of data that can scale. And what I want to mention is that the importance of our partners, such as Accelerate Tech. Microsoft provides a technology platform, but Accelerate Tech brings all that deep industry expertise, local knowledge, and tailored solutions. Accelerate Tech will help our customers interpret your data, build ESG strategies, and implement sustainability strategies that are contextually relevant to your own organization. Next slide, please, James. Thank you. So during the past 5 years, we've overcome challenges to make progress in meaningful ways. And as we share in our latest environmental sustainability report, we're on track in several aspects of our sustainability targets. So while we celebrate the sustainability achievements, we're also taking learnings forward as we mobilize to build on current progress and to address areas where we've experienced challenges. And Microsoft's most significant challenge remains its Scope 3 emissions, indirect emissions from its supply chain, construction and product lifecycle. And two examples where we've seen challenges is data center expansion. As our rapid growth in AI and cloud services continues to surge, we're starting to build more data center. So more data center construction, which relies heavily on carbon intensive materials like steel and concrete. We're also seeing that the chips we use in data centers involve chemicals which are extremely high warming, have very high global warming potential, which are very damaging gases for the atmosphere. Next slide, please, James. So as Microsoft continues to grow and innovate, environmental sustainability remains at our core value as we reflect on our core progress towards our ambitious 2030 goals to be carbon negative, water positive and zero waste while protecting our ecosystem. We pursue sustainability not as a set of isolated initiatives, but as a holistic principle we continuously integrate into every aspect of our business. And we're learning as we go. We're taking our findings and innovations into our sustainability solutions, and we're committed to empowering others with technology so we can all build a more sustainable future. Next slide, please, James. So our sustainability report serves as a crucial tool for driving our own accountability. In it, we provide insights for Microsoft sustainability commitments, strategy, approach, best practices, and related learnings. But most of all, we share our current progress against our sustainability commitments. So some of the key highlights here: carbon. A key aspect of achieving our goal to become carbon negative by 2030 is to increase our reliance on renewable energy. This means not only contracting for renewable energy supplies for our own operations, plus also working hard to expand the renewable energy market. To date, we've contracted 34 gigawatts of carbon-free electricity across 24 countries. This is about an 18-fold increase since 2020. Another crucial effort is removing existing carbon from the atmosphere. As of the publishing of our report, we've also entered long-term agreements to procure nearly 30 million metric tons of carbon removal. Water. We made our target to provide more than 1.5 million people with clean water and sanitation solutions. We're also on track to replenish more water than we consume across global operations and improve data center water usage efficiency, including through a new innovative data center design that optimizes AI workloads and consumes zero water for cooling purposes. And this is to avoid the use of an estimated 125,000 cubic meters annually by facility. Waste. We've exceeded our annual target to divert 75% of construction and demolition waste 6 years early by diverting 85% of this waste in FY24. We have also surpassed our target for our own use and recycling rate for service and components, reaching 90.9%. Also, the Surface Copilot Plus PCs now feature our most sustainable packaging design yet. In packaging from over 30,000 server racks was processed through recycling programs in FY24. This is diverting an equivalent of 2,500 metric tons of waste from landfills. And last but not least, ecosystems. In 2022, we made our target of protecting more land than we use by 2025. A target that we've since exceeded by more than 30%. And AI innovation that is now driving biodiversity conservation through research efforts by the AI Good for Land and tools like the Microsoft Planetary Computer. Next slide, please, James. So we know that AI has the potential to help address humanity's biggest problems. But alongside that incredible promise and benefits of AI, we recognize the resource intensity of these applications and the need to address the environmental impacts everywhere we can. So Microsoft is determined to tackle this challenge so that everyone can harness the full potentials and benefits of AI while staying committed to responsible AI and our own company's ambitious targets. And we're continuously innovating and improve the efficiency of our AI solutions and infrastructure, including our data centers. And there are three key areas that we deeply invested in increasing the focus. The first one is optimizing data center energy and water efficiency. So you will see this at work in our carbon-free energy and water-free operations, in our carbon removal and water replenishment projects. Second one is advancing our low carbon materials. And this is by creating global markets for these materials to be used across different industries. And then the third one is improving the energy efficiency of AI and cloud services. And we're doing this across our own AI solutions and infrastructure, while also helping others improve the energy efficiency of their AI and cloud solutions. So I hope today I've been able to give you a little bit more of an insight on Microsoft's own journey around sustainability. So with that, pass you back to you, James, to announce the next topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriella. All right. Just before we move on, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll try and get to them when you ask them, but we do have a Q&A at the end as well. Okay, just a little bit about Accelerate Tech, just to set the scene here. We are a Microsoft sustainability focused partner, particularly in data, AI, and of course ESG with the data components, and helping organizations reduce the complexity with ingesting that data, structuring that data, relating that data, and then reporting on that data. So we're very big on agile implementations, speed to value, and getting organizations up running quickly. We're 100% Microsoft. We have several advanced specializations which allow us to seek funding from Microsoft. If you're an organization that falls into that category, we can help there potentially. We're also on government panels as well, and we have been fortunate enough to attend the last two conference of parties in Dubai and Baku. So a little bit, I'm just going to put my timer on because I am a little bit notorious for going over. I'll try and keep this short and sweet. So I noticed in the poll that we put in that there's a couple of responses that were unsure. So hopefully this clears up a little bit around the ASRS and what it means. There is a lot of information on the groupings and the requirements for each group. So that can be found pretty easily online. This we're not covering the groups and the boundaries in this topic in this talk, but sort of the key headline points here, the AASB, the Australian Accounting Standards Board, they have released S1 and S2 frameworks. S1 is voluntary, S2 is mandatory, and that came into legislation end of last year, I think. That has been derived from the TCFD and the IFRS S2 and some parts of IFRS S1. Now, if you look in the standards, you'll see some elements that are prefixed with AUS as in Australia. So they're things that the Australian Accounting Standards Board have added. And then there's been some things that have been deleted. So it doesn't have an exact alignment with IFRS S2. What that means is if you're a global organization, you have to report against several frameworks, including the IFRS S2. There will be some differentiation, but there'll be a lot of crossover as well. Reporting started for Group 1 entities on the 1st of January this year. So there may be some companies that, or will be some companies that need to report by 31st of December this year, and the rest of them by June 30 next year. Group 2 will be another year after that, so June 30, 2027, and then Group 3 in June 30, 2028. So that'll be for their first years of reporting. And we've got a diagram coming up which will show what's required, when, and the assurance or the type of assurance. So there is transitional relief, as in it's starting with limited or no disclosures through to reasonable assurance and disclosures. So being assured by a third party and audited by third party organizations, and having the data and the evidence to back up your assessments and your claims. So the NGERS, National Greenhouse Emissions Reporting Framework for Scope 1 and 2, and the Greenhouse Gas Protocol for Scope 3. It's based on a material information only, so you need to do a materiality assessment, and we'll show you how that's done in Sustainability Manager. Now, ideally, you leverage primary data. That's going to be easier for your Scope 1 and 2 data and other industry type of targets and frameworks. But Scope 3, that's obviously where it gets a little bit challenging. So we'll talk about how organizations can move from a more sort of spend-based secondary data through to primary data. And in terms of the reporting entity, definitely be speaking with your finance department. This is definitely a team sport. Generally speaking, rule of thumb, financial reporting entity. So you produce a financial report for an entity, you'll then produce a sustainability report. And if there is an item on that balance sheet, then likely you'll need to report on that as well. Now, in terms of the objective and the pillars, look, there's a few statements that describe what exactly the sustainability reports are meant to do, but they are, in a nutshell, to help users of financial statements to make better informed decisions with regards to climate change. There's 4 pillars. We'll cover these in a little bit more detail, but governance, strategy, risk management, and metrics and targets. And obviously, a lot of organizations are probably familiar with the metrics and targets, having reported on Scope 1, 2 emissions and baselines and targets and things like that. Now, this is directly from the AASB website, but just to touch on the proportionality and the phase requirements. So what they're basically saying here is there is or can be temporary or permanent relief from some requirements. So the expectation is if you're a very large organization with the capability to provide more primary data style of report or quantitative reports, then that's going to be expected of you as opposed to an organization, a smaller organization. So you would provide more qualitative information in that regard. A couple of the key points here, it needs to be reasonable and supportable information that's available to the entity at the reporting date without undue cost and effort. So they're not expecting you to throw armies of resources at it and spend far too much money than the effort that it's worth. I think the key point here is to be able to show progress year on year about how you're improving your metrics, you're improving your reporting from the previous years. In terms of the roadmap, so these are the 4 pillars with a couple of other subpoints broken down. Again, this is from the Australian Accounting Audit Standards Board. I think this diagram has just been changed a little bit to make it a bit more visual. But you can see here, I think the most important one in year 1 is at Scope 3 emissions. Whilst they are listed as optional, recommendation is to definitely do a trial run or at least put Scope 3 emissions forward. Get into the habit of doing this because it'll quickly come around where you'll need to provide limited assurance for the 2nd year, 3rd year, and then reasonable assurance for the 4th year onwards. And you can see there's some other items there where no assurance is required for the 1st year. We'll send this out after the webinar as well, so you'll have access to all this information. What we've also done is broken down each pillar, so those 4 pillars that I spoke about before, with the goals and then the core activities. So these activities are taken straight from the AASB S2, and then the evidence. So what are the things that you must disclose? And Sustainability Manager in their external reporting capability, which I'll show, has the ability to track your progress and your materiality through the program as well. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. This is just an example, but as I said, we'll send this out afterwards. We've also put together a maturity framework. So what it means for an organization to be at the baseline required for some of those core activities for each pillar. So this is governance. And then what it looks like moving into a level 2, a developing organization, then a leading organization. Now, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all of these, but we've highlighted some of the core ones. And I'm just going to skip through the ones that I mentioned before. So where does the Microsoft platform come into this? There are a lot of technologies and tools available in Microsoft. Sustainability Manager and the Cloud for Sustainability is a core tool to a lot of this. So that's that leaf icon you can see there. In terms of governance, there's a lot of unstructured information that you're going to be dealing with. That'll likely be in SharePoint. That's the best place to store that information. Copilot is this colorful icon here. So that's Microsoft 365 Copilot. Very good for interrogating data, searching data, analyzing data, comparing unstructured data sources. And then Copilot Studio is this other icon where we can create custom agents to do some of the heavy lifting. And then when we move down into those other areas, again, it's the same table that we showed before, but just where the technologies best fit. This icon here with the F, that's Microsoft Fabric. So that is Microsoft's data platform. And that is where you would use it for your things like scenario analysis, climate scenario analysis, and also targets and reporting can be done there as well, or further custom reporting. So in terms of what sustainability professionals do and the journey, this is, I guess, a very high level view of that, but we'll show how some of these things can be done in the tools as well during the demo. But it starts with identifying the sources of emissions, scope 1, 2, and 3, doing a carbon boundary. A lot of you may already have that at the moment, which is good, but that's something you should definitely be working on and continuously updating as well. As I said before, it's a team sport. You need to be working with your entire organization, your suppliers, and also your customers to be able to ensure you've got a very good handle on that data and to be improving it year on year. You then need to be able to collect the data and ingest that data and apply the right emission factors to that, calculate that to get the right CO2e equivalent, and then set your targets, report on those, and then work on decarbonisation transition plans, which is where you should be doing the bulk of your work. But we all know that a lot of the work is done around the collecting of the data, which can be quite time consuming. And again, this is just another way to look at it, how these tools come into play throughout that journey. Sustainability Manager comes in, I guess you could say, 3 flavors. So if you just wanted the data model only, now maybe you have another carbon accounting tool or platform, or maybe you're even using Excel, you can use the core data model, and that's in the Microsoft Power Platform, and it can use Microsoft Fabric for reporting. That's going to be the lowest cost option, but you're going to need to customize that to get the most out of it. So that's going to take you the longest amount of time. We then move into Sustainability Manager Essentials. So the cost is a little bit more, speed is less reduced, and then into Premium, where that's going to cost the most, but it gives you the most capability, a lot of those AI capabilities as well. It's going to get you the best speed to value right out of the box. Holistically, in terms of capabilities, all of your structured data, things like PDF files, ERP systems. If you use Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation, that directly integrates. Most ERPs also integrate as well. There's a little bit of setup required to get that data in, but it can do a lot of things, Sustainability Manager. I'm not going to read through all of these given the time. I think the key thing here is that it can be customized and it's extensible. It's very customizable. So you're not locked into a specific SaaS-based solution where an organization sets and determines the roadmap. You can go and create your own capabilities, and we typically do that with most of the engagements that we do. And then you've got a very robust and capable reporting engine in Microsoft Fabric. So the Cloud for Sustainability and Sustainability Manager, I just wanted to call this out. It is not a black box. It is not it's not a solution where you send your carbon activities and then it calculates it for you and it spits out the carbon emissions. You can trace the full journey of a carbon activity to a CO2 equivalent, the emission factors that were applied, the locations where that happened, the global warming factors that were applied to that as well. Global warming potentials that were applied to that, the full history, the full auditability, and you can snapshot that data. You can also tell if anyone has updated that data as well, and it captures the change tracking as well. External auditors can have access to it, and assurance teams as well. So for Scope 3 specifically, where Sustainability Manager helps, it can ingest and support all Scope 3 categories across category 1 to 15, upstream, downstream. It's got the global warming potentials built into it. That's based on, you can select whether it's AR4, 5 or 6 from the IPCCC. You can track and store all of your suppliers, customers, key contacts in there. You can initiate data requests. It's got a supplier portal and the reporting and analytics engine. And again, we can use Copilot Studio to extend that further and to help do some of the heavy lifting. One of the biggest opportunities in reducing Scope 3 emissions, it's generally the largest emissions scope within an organization, is to move from more spend-based and secondary data through to primary data. Now, it's easier said than done, but there's a lot of low-hanging fruit to reduce emissions, and then work with your supply chain to get that data and make it easier for them to submit it in. So if they don't know how to calculate their emissions, they can send their raw carbon activity data into something like the supply chain portal, and you can do the calculations on their behalf, which is quite handy because not all of your suppliers are going to know how to do that. So I won't go through all this. We'll send it out after, but there's some guidance here on moving from a level 1 to a level 3. All right, we will dive into some live demos, and I'll just change my screen. So the first thing we're going to go through is we're going to look at a pretty simple agent in Microsoft Copilot that's going to help us figure out where certain emissions go. So sustainability teams, generally you're answering a lot of questions. You've got a lot of information that's being requested of you. What we've seen work really well, and I think what we'll need to change is a bit of a trend, is that you'll need to be able to multiply yourself and your knowledge, and you can do that quite easily with agents and chatbot solutions to answer questions that are grounded in your organizational knowledge or industry knowledge. We'll then look at some capabilities for requesting data and whatnot within Sustainability Manager. So I will change my screen. Okay. Now, hopefully this isn't too small. So what we've done in Copilot is we've created a Scope 3 analyst. So we can, you could create a sustainability analyst, you could create a Scope 1 analyst, a Scope 2 analyst. And what we've done is we've grounded this in the GHG protocol. And what we need some help with is identifying an invoice that we've received from our office. It's a lease office that we have in Sydney. That's our Accelerate Tech office. And we want to work out what emission scope and category it's in. Now, obviously, sustainability professionals, you would probably know that. But again, if we're putting this out to the broader organization, they may not know that, and we want to empower them to be able to answer those questions. So we upload the invoice, and then it'll come back with an answer. So we've set this some specific instructions. We have also, as I mentioned, grounded it in some knowledge sources as well. So it's read the file, it'll give us a summary, it will determine the scope and give us a rationale and a justification around that. So it said Scope 3, just jumped a bit, Scope 3, Category 8, upstream leased assets, because the operation of the assets leased by the reporting company, lessee, is in a reporting area not included in Scope 1 and Scope 2. So that's from the GHG protocol. And then some further information here referencing the GHG protocol around why it's selected that. Now, we've also said to do an initial calculation, but I do not recommend using Copilot or AI to do your calculations for you. That is a black box approach. If you're going to do anything like this, please, recommendation, do it as indicative only, because you're working with a probabilistic technology. if you do this every single time, you'll probably get a different answer, which is not accurate. But what we have said here is you need to upload this to our sustainability management platform, which is Sustainability Manager, and that is the official reporting and endorsed tool to be able to do that. But this is just to help us tag or at least find out what source of data that is and what scope to apply to that. Okay. Just switch back, oops, screen here. How are we tracking for time? Okay. So there's several ways to collect data in Sustainability Manager. And one of the first things you're going to want to do is to set up some data collection plans. So these can be your entire carbon boundary. They can be set at yearly or monthly intervals, and basically they can be used to identify the different owners within the organization who look after that data. So this is very much an internal tool where you would assign a particular data owner for this is for Scope 3 Category 8 for a particular reporting period, and then assign the different topics to those. So that's in Sustainability Manager, that's basically the category, which is the upstream leased assets. And then we have our data requests. So this is a data request that gets sent out to the data owner, and that can be put on a recurring basis. They will get an email, they'll respond back to that, and then they will provide the evidence. So they will come in. Now, there's multiple ways that they can add the data. They can either do it in this basic form here, and then link an artifact, so the business travel. Sorry, that's not business travel. This is leased assets. Just in the interest of time, we'll just keep it at that. Then we can save that. And then we can upload or add an existing document. So it's got the ability to link documents in here as well. Now, we can then holistically look at all the different data requests that have gone out to the organization and track those and determine whether they're active or in draft or they're complete. The other way to import data and set up data is to create data imports. So this will show every single job that's been run to import data. Now, what we like to do when we come in and set up this tool, being Sustainability Manager, is to automate as much as we can on a regular basis. The ideal situation is on a monthly basis. That's always not possible, but that's our goal. And what we can see here is a history of all the jobs that have passed, that are scheduled, that have failed. This one here, for example, this is ingesting some Scope 3 Category 6, so some business travel that was imported earlier. We can refresh, we can run that again, and that is linked to a file on SharePoint. So if that file gets updated on SharePoint, the data will refresh and come in here. Again, you can refresh these on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, however, whatever frequency you like. And then who owns that data import? This is very much an internal tool as well. You can come in here and you can use things like templates. So in the sustainability team, you can be creating reusable templates for data owners in your organization to come in and reuse, which is quite helpful. And then there's data providers, one of those being the Azure Impact Dashboard. What that is it's basically all of your Scope 3 emissions from using Microsoft products like Azure and Microsoft 365. That will automatically come into Sustainability Manager. So for Scope 3 Category 1, for goods and services. It's also got Ecolab connectors, EcoVadis as well, and you can build custom ones. We've built a custom one which connects to our utility bill automation engine. So that's ingesting PDFs into Sustainability Manager. Now, the external way to get data in, so we've got an ESG supplier portal. Now, this is just showing you what's possible. So we've got some things around, visualizations around our impact, or this is to do with funds management, so how the fund's performing, things like that. So this is all customizable. It's a great way to show the market your progress towards decarbonisation. This data can be directly pulled out of Sustainability Manager and displayed. So it's really, you can use it as a communication tool as well on your website. We've got it linked up to some forms and also chatbots and surveys. So we'll just step through. Doing a survey quickly. So just to set the scene here, we're an external organisation. We've been requested to submit data to the organisation that we work with, one of our clients. So we're logged in here, and we'll go through and do a survey. So this survey, it can be to request data. It can be used for internal surveys for employee commuting, for example, and that data can all go into Sustainability Manager. So we'll just kick this one off. So it knows me because I've logged in before. I've already set up a profile, and we'll just step through a couple of these questions. Now this is fully customizable. So you can customize the forms, the information that you're requesting, the questions that you're asking can all be configured to meet your organizational requirements. So what we do at this step is we'd download a template, and then we'd fill it out, and then we would upload the template. So we've already got one that we've filled out, which is called external activity, and I've got it open, which is probably not a bad thing, just to give you a look at what the format is. So when we download the template, it's quite structured. So Sustainability Manager kind of populates it with all the constraints in there. I think we all know of sending templates out. You send it out and something completely different can come back. So this structures it pretty well to avoid that from happening. And you've got some supporting information up the top, but there's not too many fields that we need to fill out. So we'll just close that down so we can upload it. And we will add that in. There's some other information here. We'll just skip through that around targets and whatnot. And then we've got a review screen, and then we will submit. And yes, Sustainability Manager, we get asked this fairly often, does product carbon footprints as well. Now, if we go back to imports, we will then see that survey upload, and it's scheduled. That usually takes a couple of minutes to go and import. If it fails, the person who uploaded it, their contact details, they will be notified right away that it's failed and that the steps to remediate it. To show you where that information is kept, and so sorry, I'll probably skip through that a little bit quickly. These are all of the what they call accounts. So an account could be a supplier or a customer. These are all contained within the system as well, and there's some other metadata that's associated with those, and depending on what information that we require from them. And we can store things like different ratings in there, and all their surveys that they've completed or yet to complete can be scheduled and loaded in here as well. All right, so what happens to that data when it gets loaded? Well, it gets added as a carbon activity, and was it business travel? Sorry, I'll just quickly go back to show you here. So when we want to see view data in the system, it is categorized by the scope and the activity. So we've got the full scope 1, 2, and 3, upstream and downstream. So we're going to look at business travel. And if I know this is probably zoomed in not enough, so I'll just do that. And I'm just going to look at the organization. So you can set up your entire organization structure or operating company structure in Sustainability Manager. It goes 9 levels deep. I know some applications, so sustainability platforms don't have very deep hierarchical structures to map out your organization. Sustainability Manager covers 9 levels deep, which is very, very comprehensive. So those are 2 line items that were imported before, so we can open that up. And again, this is if an auditor needs to come to the system and work out, okay, what was that carbon activity? What was the date? This is a spend-based travel. What was the price? What was the distance, etc. Some of the other metadata that goes in there. How does it get calculated? Well, we have all of the factor libraries in Sustainability Manager. So you've got NGAs in there, historical factor libraries, you've got NGA factor libraries, and then you've got global factor libraries and GHG protocol libraries as well. And you've got all the different calculation models. So again, when I mentioned black box, this, you can go in and you can see exactly what is happening, what is calculating, and even simulate that that business travel I mentioned before. So if we open this up and we click next, I've clicked next too quickly, but it should show us our greenhouse gases from that consumption. So the nitrous, methane, and CO2, and then it'll give us the CO2e equivalent at the end. And then where that lives is in our entire table of emissions. So this is every single calculated emission in the system, and when you open up each one, it'll show you the journey that it took. Now, I think I'm almost at time, and I'll just switch back to the demo to see if there was anything else we were going to cover. So I'll just let Justin back in. Now, another thing to help with either answering questions or gathering data is this is a custom AI solution that can sit on your website or as part of your ESG portal. And you can submit questions, and that can go into Sustainability Manager as well. So I've asked it. It's actually embedded or grounded on the Microsoft reports that Gabriella was mentioning before. So I've asked it about some LCAs for Surface Laptop range, and it's given me an answer. And if I want some further information, I can fill out that form. And finally, I think, and very importantly, where does external reporting fall in? Where does the ASRS reporting happen? So this is under the external reporting module. So you can build a report against various standards. You can even create your own custom ones as well, including even nature-based reporting, but that can all live in external reporting. So we'll see a quick snapshot of anything that needs approving and our overall requirement status. So these are the standards that are available in the tool at the moment. More are getting released, but importantly, it does have the ASRS standard in here. And I'll just quickly show you what an assessment looks like. So this is a very good tool for going through and doing your initial materiality assessment. So what Microsoft have done, we won't look through S1, but for S2, basically broken it down into the 4 pillars that I mentioned before, and then we can go down even further into basically each paragraph and sub-paragraph and mark if certain things are material or not material, and then link the data to those items, and that data can be automatically linked as well. So you can start to build this out and track your progress over time. And then for things like scenario analysis and risks and issues, I mean, risks can be a customization that can be built in here, and scenario analysis can be done in tools like Microsoft Fabric. So I will leave it there. I think I've gone a little bit over my time limit, and I will hand over to you, Genevieve.
Great, thanks, James. Just presented in Teams. Hopefully this works. Sorry. Okay, hopefully you can see those slides.
All good.
Great. Well, nice to be here with you all today. I will go through a little bit of our journey with MSM across Scope 3 and give you a little bit of the wider context at the end around climate disclosures. I'm coming from a New Zealand example, so we've had a bit of experience with dealing with this regime ahead of the Australian market. So just a little bit of information about BECA for those of you who aren't aware who we are. We're one of Asia Pacific's largest independent advisory design and engineering consultancies. We've been in business about 100 years. We're have been a family-owned operated business that's now grown to about 4,000 people in about 24 offices around the Asia Pacific, and we do work all around the world. I guess being an employee-owned business, we've got a strong ethos around commitment to sustainability and developing long-term relationships with our clients. And we do all sorts of different types of work, from really strategic advisory type work all the way through to project management, engineering design, and implementing solutions on the ground. So we have a lovely ability to do kind of end-to-end decarbonisation, climate, nature, all sorts of things for our clients. So that's a little bit about BECA. We have an emissions reduction target, 32% by 2030, based on 2018 baseline, and it comprises two specific targets. Scope 1 and 2 is a 50% reduction by 2030, which is 1.5 degree aligned, and a 30% reduction in Scope 3, which is a well below 2 degrees aligned target. Not doing too badly with the progress on those targets. Our first one tracking at about 23% against 50%. And obviously the more difficult Scope 3, which we'll talk about, tracking at about 9% on our 30%. So we're making good progress, but you know, all the proof is in the pudding in terms of the next period of time, which is very important. Just to give you an idea of our types of emissions, so I know James touched on earlier how much your Scope 3 is of your whole footprint. So what you can see here in the teal is our vehicle fleet, in the grey is our electricity use, and the remainder, approximately 90% of that footprint, is Scope 3, and it's made up of air travel in purple, our purchased goods and services in green, which includes all the subconsultants we use, and a significant proportion is our employee commuting in the light grey, and then there's a bunch of other Scope 3 emissions in there as well. So I guess the point I wanted to make here is if you haven't measured your Scope 3 yet, be prepared to have quite a significant increase on your existing footprint as a result of really getting to grips with everything that your organisation directly controls and influences in terms of emissions generation. So what have we been doing so far and where are we going? So we've been doing, as I'm expecting many people do, started with the Excel spreadsheets in terms of trying to crunch the numbers with all of this. We'd got to a point where we had very much got some complex emissions, Excel spreadsheets being used to calculate our emissions. But really the stumbling block that we were coming upon was we could only manage the capacity we had was only managing to do this inventory once a year. And we really needed to be able to have more time being able to track what we're doing with our initiatives and reporting on more real-time progress as we track towards those targets. So, you know, Excel is good at handling data to a certain point, but once you've got multiple spreadsheets with interdependencies and large formulas, this becomes cumbersome and inefficient and does require a lot of checking. Obviously, there's limited automation there with Excel. You know, constant manual updates are required, quite time consuming. And as a business grows, obviously the requirement for more spreadsheets grows. And so just scalability issue with just relying on Excel entirely. No connection to one of our internal systems with Excel as well. And of course, you are very much prone to manual error through just transferring data over. So really, that's the point we got to. We were looking for a platform in the market. We've got a good relationship with Microsoft, and therefore we're keen to give the Microsoft Sustainability Manager platform a go. So Our journey with MSM has been a bit of a phased approach, and so you've perhaps seen the scale with which BECA operates. So we're Asia Pacific business, 4,000 employees, multiple offices on multiple jurisdictions, lots of employees moving all over the place, and so a reasonably complicated greenhouse gas footprint, including all Scope 3 emissions. And so our journey involved basically breaking this down with a key focus around getting Scope 1 and Scope 2, which is the fleet and electricity, sorted. And then we agreed with Accelerate that we would do a staged Scope 3 implementation where we were primarily focusing around our most important emissions that we were tracking, being the travel related element where we had the biggest opportunity to influence. So some of the clear benefits that we see in terms of switching to the platform is certainly the dashboards have been of great use, being able to more easily see where we can have the greatest impact. And this is getting down to both an office level and the different teams that we have within the offices, which we didn't really have that ability to do clearly with Excel. One of our biggest drivers was at least being able to do quarterly reporting to management, again, which we couldn't previously do. And so this is really helping us to get more buy-in for our actions on decarbonisation and being able to more regularly report on that. And quite specifically on some trend and data analysis, previously, we weren't really being able to spot things like spikes in electricity, spikes in travel as a result of key projects that were won overseas. So the platform's really helping us to do that and helping make smarter decisions. Some of the key lessons I think maybe that might be transferable to this audience is thinking about how much work you can do in sorting out your data before transferring to a platform. We'd done a reasonable job of consolidating the data that we needed, particularly around Scope 3. But it is still quite an effort to go from, something that's Excel based to something that's much more automated like this. So anything you can do ahead of time to make sure that you are as structured as possible will definitely reap benefits down the line. Being able to prioritize how we uploaded that data. We were uploading in bulk, and so firstly we broke it down to make sure we could upload monthly and track any reconciliation that was happening. And also, as we moved through those different phases of scopes upload, we were able to learn as we went, and which meant the problem solving along the way, which of course there was always, was much easier as we got to grips with what needed to be done from the previous scopes that had been uploaded. The reporting and the insights I think I've mentioned is definitely driving a huge amount of value. That view that James has demonstrated per month by business unit, by country, it's much easier to see exactly what's going on real time and generating reports real time. One of the other key things I think we'd touch on is, bringing a team, which James has said, it's a team game, bringing your best team forward. We brought our sustainability team, led by myself, alongside our digital team, which very much spoke the language of data and technology, which is not really my forte. But you're having that team around the table and making sure that you can all crowdsource that capability and also learn as you go, so that once you've had the benefit of being onboarded to the platform, that you've got a team that can really take it forward and knows how to use it well. And just to kind of round us out, because I'm conscious of time, of course, this is all building up to disclosure reporting potentially. For those of you who are captured, the emissions part is an essential part of any disclosures. New Zealand's had a lot of benefit of having 2 years of having this in operation. Scope 3 has been deferred for us until next year, so a lot of organisations are still in that space of trying to grapple with Scope 3 and get that set up for disclosure. We supported a number of different organisations over here with the process of disclosure. Some of the trickier bits are around climate risk assessment, scenario analysis, and particularly as you get more mature, the financial quantification of those risks. And I think it's fair to say in New Zealand, we've seen a huge ripple effect from both obviously the mandatory reporting entities out into the market, people using these frameworks for voluntary reporting. We ourselves have done our second report this year, so well versed in how much of a challenge these things can be. And I thought I'd touch briefly on some of the key learnings you might find valuable in Australia. Focus on what's material to your organisation and the audience of your report. Don't report on anything else. The climate-related scenario planning needs to be very carefully considered. They need to be plausible and applicable to your organisation, really being transparent about how you have developed the scenarios. Don't forget opportunities. Obviously, there's a big focus on risk, but there's plenty of the upside there to be grasped and built on from an organisation. Don't underestimate the effort it takes for a first year of reporting. We're talking measurement in full-time employees here, not number of hours. Do have a cross-functional internal team involved, CFO, risk team, legal team, sustainability team, ops team, they all need to be involved. But some of the real benefits of pushing this through is around better risk management, much stronger investor confidence, and stronger strategic planning. And so some of the work that's going on in New Zealand as we tick into year 3 is around scope 3, financial quantification of risk, which is a difficulty, and transition planning, all of which we are helping clients with at the moment with our depth of engineering expertise to bring some practicality to some of those plans. And I know James has touched on it briefly. It's big buzzword at the moment. It's nature disclosures. Sure, there's quite a few organisations in Australia thinking about going down that track, but that is the next frontier certainly. And here in New Zealand, we're working with a new number of New Zealand's primary sector industries to help with that nature-based reporting. So I'm conscious of time. There might be some questions, and I will leave it there. Thanks, James.
Thank you very much, Genevieve. So yes, there was one question in the chat. So Jock, we built a utility bill connector, if you will, or automation that connects into Dynamics 365 ERP. It can also connect into SAP. Really, any ERP that has an API. That's been trained on I think about 23 different utility providers within Australia, New Zealand, some and some others as well outside of that region. And yeah, essentially those invoices can come, or when they're posted in the ERP system, can be directly imported into Sustainability Manager, and their carbon activities captured and then their emissions calculated. We've also got some clients who we get the PDFs out of accounts payable mailboxes. Their process is a little bit different. Some that even get saved into SharePoint. So there's a lot of options, but yeah, the ERP side is covered. Okay, I think we're almost at time. If there's no other questions, we might wrap it up. As I said before, we will send out the decks to you after, and any supporting information that we've referenced. But yeah, with that, I'd like to say a big thank you to Gabriella and Genevieve for jumping on today and for your time. And thank you to everyone for attending. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.